Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals. Our episode this week is a little bit different. For the second year running, we recorded live at the American Soccer Insight Summit at Rice University in Houston, Texas. We have some fun guests, we have some player clips, we have a bunch of data viz. If you were going to watch an episode on video, this might be a good one. Please enjoy.
That's so good to meet you because I'm really strong against stats.
That's Kenza Dali. That's a 34-year-old French midfielder who plays for the San Diego Wave. She comes from an entirely different generation of training, of coaching, and preparation for the game of soccer. Basically,
and the crazy thing is, she's a stats queen.
Yeah.
She's an absolutely dominant central midfielder, one of the best sixes in the league.
She may hate the stats sure don't hate her. So that's what we're up against, but there is hope.
I think progressive passing is something that I really focused on growing throughout the season, and especially my first year in the league, I really worked on my body shape, my first touch, being able to play progressive because you don't have a lot of time and space in the midfield, so it's really important to set yourself up to play those passes forward. That stat is really exciting for me because that's something that I've really been working on. Recognizing what spaces are going to be on and what spaces are going to open up. That's maybe when I can start to drive into space, run off my defenders, maybe running into zone 2 rather than just sitting and receiving in zone 1.
That child cannot legally drink in the United States for another 11 months.
Yeah.
And that is how she is talking about the game.
Yeah.
These are the types of people that we are trying to create
in
the ecosystem of women's soccer. We are very excited to bring on a couple of guests who I think really embody our mission statement, which is everyone analyzes women's sports. So I've been telling them all week that their youth really enrages me. Because neither of them can legally rent a car in the U.S., and one of them is still several months away from her 21st birthday. One is a video and data analyst for the Houston Dash, the NWSL club right here in Houston. The other is, and I am really not exaggerating here, the future of public women's soccer data. Please welcome Chloe Dhillon and Catalina Bush. Eric's got the mic. You guys can take any seat you want.
Okay. Oh, I get the mic. Cool.
Yeah, please join us. We have a...
Chloe, you are video and data analyst. In this crazy world of analytics, you are interfacing with players and the coaching staff a lot. But your department's not super big, as no NWSL analytics department is. Can you walk us through a little bit your org chart and how your front office has decided to structure the data and analytics wing of what the Dash do?
Yeah, of course. So just kind of going back like from before 2024, Michael Poma, he was kind of doing this and building this all himself. And then he brought me in September 2024 to work with like the technical side. And then from that, we kind of expanded with Adelaide, who's in the corner over there. She's our recruitment analyst. She joined it May. So now we've kind of split the department off a little bit. Now it's Michael's like overseeing recruitment analytics, and I'm more on the video side with the technical staff, and then Adelaide is on recruitment side. So that's kind of how we've structured our like small department. Obviously, it's just the three of us, so we really kind of focus on the specific areas that we're assigned to. So. And
for you, what role does data play in the work that you need to do with the coaching staff? Fabrice Gautrat has only had 1 year as head coach with the Dash. He's been in the league a long time as an assistant. What are you preparing for him? What are you and Michael thinking about to try and get buy-in? And what kinds of buy-in do you want to get from the coaches and the players?
Yeah, I think ultimately the main thing with the data is how can we make it relatable, not only for the staff, but for the players as well. I think, you can dive into so many deep holes and stuff with data, but, how can you make it relatable and simple with the messages you're trying to deliver, and also relating it with context with video as well?
We heard a presentation earlier from a woman who works at Arsenal, give the players easy wins was something that she seemed to really stress. Is that something that resonates with you and you think would resonate with the rest of your group?
Yeah, I think that's like any team, every team wants to win, essentially. So I think we want to find our own way of winning. Obviously, every club in the NWSL will have their own way of winning, and our way of winning is going to be different to everyone else's. So I think we have to be really clear on like what we want to focus on that's going to make us win with the players we have in the building and the resources we have and the staff we have as well.
Yeah, the Houston Dash have historically been a team that has struggled in the NWSL and is a team that until quite recently wasn't pushing in this analytics direction. Now, do you feel like you have buy-in from, I know ownership is in its own weird state, but you have your president, Angela Mangano, and you also have your head coach. Do you feel like you have buy-in from everyone that you're communicating with?
Yeah, honestly, the relationships we have within the group of staff we have now, like, I really value the relationships I have. Like, I'm really close with the people I work with, and I think that's so key when you're, seeing each other day in, day out, and I think that also drives results as well. Like, you might, again, you can't measure that, but I think that's a big key part in pushing for results. And, you go back to saying like the Dash and creating history. That's something that we really want to focus on this season. Like, how can we make history and create history? And I think looking at last season, we had Angela come in, we had Fabrice come in, and Jaime, the assistant coach, and then Emma came in at the same time as me as well. And I think we've got a more stable structure going into that now. And I think that structure has provided the players also with a lot of trust and knowing that we can support them and we're there on that journey with them. And then obviously pushing for playoffs near the end of last season as well. I think that just shows that we're becoming a more competitive team.
Take us through your week during the season. Training, meetings, game day. At each phase of that process, where and how are you interfacing with data and then bringing it to decision makers who will or will not implement that information?
Yeah, I'll start off with like training first. So training, obviously, I'll tag that live. Like, we want to be able to have that resource available for the coaches and the players essentially straight after training, so we can look at some of them areas. I think obviously you're not going to have like stats bomb and all the skill corner stuff at training. That's just something we collect like in-house. However, on the match day or post-match side, we'll have the data providers like I just listed there. And that's where the more advanced data comes in with Michael's support and Adelaide's support as well, like really generating things that are specific to what we want to see. I guess if you want to call it like the Houston Dash way, that's like where we want to really focus on us. Yeah.
Does that include opposition analysis in your
preparation?
preparation?
And then, obviously opposition analysis, that's like another key part. Using the data, we'll obviously go back and look at games, like translating the data into, where are we seeing themes, trends, and then linking it in with the video as well. And then in terms of meetings, obviously presenting bits of data that can be relatable to the players, but then the coaches will obviously see a little bit more on the data side just to make like decisions around what we're going to train and parts like that. So
we've got a player of yours, another one of these rascally youths. This is the fullback, the right back specifically for the Houston Dash, also is making a name for herself with the U.S. women's national team, and she is what, all of 24, if I'm not mistaken?
Sorry, what was that?
All of 24 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Avery Patterson.
In the system we play in Houston, at least, the wing backs or the outside backs have the mobility and freedom to either invert higher or, invert lower if that other wing back is higher. I trust my defenders behind me to know that, oh, there she goes again. Maybe we need to cover.
So you know Avery pretty well.
Yeah.
This is the second piece of information that we have brought from Catalina's invaluable VizHub at American Soccer Analysis. I have noted all the places where the Dash's progressive passes are kicked from. And does the Patterson zone ring true to you as a concept?
I've not named it the Patterson zone myself. But I think, I can totally understand why it's called that. I think Avery is one of them dynamic players where, she wants to get high, she wants to score goals. And again, actually, I know that's one of her personal goals for this season. Like, she wants to score more goals and she wants to be dangerous, and she definitely has the quality to do that. Among a lot of other players on our team. And I think, again, when you look at how we want to play and stuff like that, naturally you will see these tendencies with more attacking-minded players to go higher. But then also, I think another thing with Avery is, I know she's been working super hard with her defending side as well. And, you'll see multiple clips from last season where, she's sprinting so hard to get back in the box to cover the back post and stuff. So I think, she's a great attacking player as well, but I think she's really focused hard on the defending side as well, and sometimes that can go a little bit unrecognized. So just kind of putting that out there for her too.
So how do you tend to interact with players directly?
I think so. A big thing last season was we kind of shifted the way we approached opposition. I actually took a bit more of a lead on presenting to the players in the second half of the season. Again, that was a great opportunity to interact with the girls more. And I think day to day, obviously, throughout training, sometimes they'll come and ask questions. They want to review film. Obviously, the coaches will have more of a direct one-to-one with them in terms of film, but they will come to me sometimes with questions, and that's something where I can support them with that. But again, it goes back to the relationship piece. I want them to be able to trust us in what we're showing, but then also with the coaches, I want them to trust them when they're watching film too.
When you're listening to Avery in that clip, it is obvious that she is a pretty cerebral and pretty thoughtful player when it comes to thinking about her own game and about the team tactically and technically. Not all players are like that. Not all players should be like that. How do you and your group more broadly kind of modulate the way that you communicate and find different communication styles for all different types of communicators on the squad?
I think one big thing I feel like we've focused on last season was our kind of 3 values, which was the trust, unity, and honor. And I think it goes back to what Avery said. She trusts her back line. And that's a big thing. Again, you can't measure that. But if that trust is there, I think that's such a huge thing that, with the structure with the coaching staff being more consistent and the GM coming in and assistant GM coming in, that builds trust as well, not only off the field, but on the field as well. So I think that's a big thing around that, really building the foundations for that and putting our players in situations where they feel like they can build trust. So, I feel like we want to make meetings fun. So at the beginning of meetings, we want to make them feel like they know each other, and we'll do little exercises with them and, just make it more of an environment where you feel valued and feel more known. And I think that's really what we're trying to create, that culture. And I think once you've created that culture, you will trust each other more. And I think that contributes to that on the field.
You joined the club in September of 2024. In the almost year and a half since then. Do you really feel like you guys have made progress in that way?
100%. I think I came in at a time of uncertainty, and I think, regardless if it's Houston, regardless if any club, when you go in and it's mid-season September, you're coming in at a time where it's not preseason, it's not the end of the season, you're coming in straight into it. So you have to be so adaptable with that, and I think you have to be so open-minded when you go into them environments, and you have to understand what's happened before, but actually kind of looking forward instead of, dwelling on the past, whatever, but how can you move forward and support people going forward with
They're all
that.
in their early 20s. They don't have a past to dwell on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is probably not something you want to look at, but you have looked at it.
Yeah.
This is the Houston Dash's rolling non-penalty XG differential throughout the season, also built by Catalina over here. Blue is good, red is bad, as if I needed to tell you. So some little blips of blue at the beginning of the season when you guys were getting your feet wet, and then things got rough over the summer, and then results and some performances started turning around a little bit at the beginning of the second half, and then
Yeah.
at the end of the season. When you see that, what does it reflect in terms of your and your team's, the analytics group's process? You know, some analytics groups are really kind of walled off from results. Others maybe not so much. You know, like how, when things aren't going well, like what's the feedback and what's the messaging that you're getting from the hires up?
I think the main thing when you look at this, it tells a story of the season, but then also I think it also, from our lens, it's like, okay, when we see a trend or we see a change, it's, okay, can we bring that up and highlight that? But then also what's the solution of that? So I think, okay, where you look at this and you see our XG against going up, like in that June period onwards, that was really a point where we knew when it got to July, we need to really review what happened from the beginning of the season to that June period and find out, okay, what is going, you know, in our favor, but then what is not going in our favor. So really finding answers. And I hat off to everyone, but I think we really worked hard in that July period to find solutions on how to come out the other end and try and create positive results. And I think, again, you can see that from where we've kind of dropped that, where we started conceding less again, and then you start to see a positive trend where we started creating more as well. And I think that kind of just shows that, again, from that period where we had the unbeaten streak, that really was a time where we dominated and we were pushing for playoffs. I think, again, there's many contextual factors in this part, definitely at the end, like you know, the poor players have played a whole season, like, you know, people start to get tired, and again, like, everyone works so hard to put their all into the team. And I think, again, it's just finding now, obviously in the off season, it was like, okay, how can we measure things to try and be more consistent in this, but then also come out the other end and try and make that trend where our XG4 is higher, and obviously that we're conceding less.
I also think it bears mentioning just how extraordinarily chaotic the 2024 season was for the Houston Dash.
And 2023 and the 2021, 2019. Like, this club has had a troubled history.
But essentially, over the course of the club's history, and particularly in 2024, you had some of the least ideal working conditions to inherit, to come into a situation that was really, really challenging. And I think people who weren't really watching the league last year would take a look at this and not understand it as like a stabilizing form of success. What are you guys looking to build on?
Yeah, again, I think this year we're looking, like I said before, we want to create history. We want to look to be a team where, you know, people are scared to come and play us. Like, we want to, you know, we want people to come and be like, oh, great, we have to play Houston. Like, we know we're going to be, like, hard to play against. We want to be hard to beat. And I think that's the goal for this year. Can we get results, push for playoffs, and be a team that people don't want to play against and are scared to turn up at our place, but also when we go to their home base, like, they're like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be an easy game. So I feel like that's really the goal for this season. Like, and I think the players also have that mindset. So if any other teams are watching this,
watch out.
Yeah.
Well, when we say everyone analyzes women's sports, it's not just people behind the scenes and people who work team side or for vendors or for academies in academic context. It's also fans, it's writers, reporters, pundits, people in the media, people who can help make these kinds of things more interesting to a broad spectrum of people. So let's turn the lens over to Catalina.
Yep.
Real quick, when do you graduate college?
A year and a half.
Shut up. This is absolutely insane. Catalina has built VizHub. Can you, for anybody who in the room might not know what VizHub is, can you walk us through it?
Yeah, so it's basically a platform that people can use to generate pretty common, like industry standard data visualizations. And the idea was to take the pre-existing ASA database and really make it available to the public through stuff that people in clubs have access to, stuff that kind of more advanced analysts have access to, and really just kind of make it the most accessible possible. And so that's basically through a platform that lets you kind of select a player, select a team, select a season, and be able to visualize their stats, whether that's on a game level or on a season level. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. There are a lot of different visualizations in the app. But yeah, it's kind of the goal of it was to be easy to use, accessible, and to just make some fun and pretty visualizations.
Like this. Speaking of Avery Patterson, this is her radar. Judging how she performed in certain key metrics relative to other fullbacks in the NWSL last year. You made the decisions which stats you wanted to include in each radar template.
Yes.
So can you walk us through your process about how you made those judgments, what you felt was important, what you felt was less important? Like, so much of you is in this data and in these images that maybe people might not understand if they're just coming to it blind. So talk us through your process on how you made those judgments and decisions to add or not add various things. And we can maybe use Avery's radar as a jumping off point here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary because people might have disagree with me on which stats I chose. But basically for fullbacks, I kind of wanted to target, obviously kind of some attacking stats, some possession stats, and more defensive stats than you would see in other positions. So I think because I kind of erred the side of more stats rather than less, there's not huge differences between this and a winger template or this and a center defensive midfielder template. This has kind of on the bottom left side, you'll see aerial duel win percentage, defensive actions won per 96 minutes, interrupting G+, fouling G+. And those are kind of all general, skew towards the defensive stats of how are they winning their duels, kind of how, are they engaging on the ball with attackers, and then also the value they're adding through those interceptions, and then also, maybe through fouling. And then kind of on the bottom right side, it's more possession, right? Like passing, you see turnovers. Often that tends to be higher with players that complete a lot of progressive passes, but in this case, that's actually a lower number of turnovers for Avery Patterson, which is good because she's retaining possession. And then at the top, you see a couple of dribbling stats, and then chance creation through expected assists. So the goal was to kind of capture every type of fullback and every type of player in these positions through the different stats that I chose. And often fullbacks aren't the type of players that are scoring insane chances or racking up tons of XG. And so I'd rather allocate one of these stat spots for something that's more relevant to fullbacks than, XG.
But also inside this, as you're building out radars, we could apply a striker template to Avery Patterson.
Yeah.
It would feed us a really weird looking radar, but we could. So how important was it to you when creating VizHub to have real customization for users?
Yeah, I think honestly, VizHub is at a point where I wish I could add more customization, but I just don't have space for all the buttons. I really wanted to give people the control over this because there's so many ways that you can cut the cake and see how players match up, and often, these kind of positional templates that are provided by ASA, they're great, but they're not kind of the end all be all. And some players lie between these positions. So if sometimes they're playing as a center mid, sometimes they're playing as a defensive midfielder. You want to be able to visualize those differences. You want to be able to see how they compare against those positions. So really allowing people the customizability to control what they're seeing and also control how they're analyzing the data. I don't want to be the one that's analyzing the data for the users of VizHub or for the people. I want this to empower people to come up with their own analysis.
I mean, you break down things not just at the player level, but at the team level, even at the league level. This is a graphic that you call team defensive structure here. I know that Houston didn't always play in a back four, Chloe, but this is how they looked when they did play in a back four, according to ASA's numbers. I know this was a graphic that you were kind of proud of for coming up with. Like, what on this level, which feels more kind of scout and coach and player friendly maybe than like a radar, which can be abstract to people inside the game. Like, why was it important to develop these kinds of graphics and metrics? Because you also include, progressive passing charts or like receiving sonars, stuff that I think like players and coaches might be able to more intuitively understand. But why was it important to do stuff like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was having a conversation with someone on the ASA Slack. I can't remember if it was Akshay or if it was Jamin, but we were talking about passing networks, and whoever it was said, well, it'd be nice to see just the defensive line and see how it changes based off a 3 at the back or a 4 at the back. And that kind of got my mind turning, and I think this is a little visual overload, but the goal is to kind of say, here's where the players were lined up, and then also here's how effective that defensive structure was. And so kind of on the left, it's average height of defensive actions, and that's where those bubbles are for each position. And those are players, like it's player agnostic, it doesn't matter who's playing there. It's the position. And the color indicates kind of the interrupting G+ that they accrued while they were playing at that position. And then you can kind of see the effect of that in the final third offensive G+ allowed. And so those arrows, depending on how dark blue they are, it shows how much value they were allowing through those channels. And so you can see like the 92 on the right side and that dark blue right arrow.
Slot.
The dash, we're allowing a lot of offensive value through the right defensive channel. And so that's something that could be like, oh, our right back has high interrupting G+, and we're conceding a lot of offensive G+. That seems to me like a volume issue. It seems that teams are attacking down that side. So how can we help the team kind of cope with that? And we talked about Avery Patterson. Maybe that's because she's pushing high up the field and you're getting exploited. So I think being able to visualize that and being able to contextualize some of these things, right? Like just the interrupting G+ on those player bubbles is somewhat useful. But in addition to the final third offensive G+ allowed, together it can kind of tell a more cohesive story. And then of course, kind of the stats on the top, again, adding more context about how this team ranks against the rest of the league, because you need to know what the benchmark is. You can't just look at this team in a vacuum and make a judgment on it.
Chloe, when you're on the private side of things, you have access to data that Catalina and the public probably don't have. When you look at a graphic like this, does it pass the smell test for you?
In what sense?
Well, does this look like the team's defensive performance that you saw both with your own eyes and with the data that you have access to?
I think it's like...
In other words, how big is the gulf between public and private understanding of soccer through data right now?
Yeah, I think like if you look at this, right, we obviously know, and we just spoke about Avery earlier, like we know she goes higher. Yeah. So naturally, you're going to concede more space if a player's rotated higher. So I guess it's finding the fine balance between the attacking and defensive side. In terms of like public data to non-public data, I think, again, like data is data. Obviously, there'll be differences with providers and stuff, but most of the time, the data you are seeing, there'll probably be not much of a difference regarding like what it's trying to say, So this doesn't feel like completely ridiculous. No, I'm not looking at this and going, oh my God, like yeah. It's like, again, it's something where you look at and you're like, okay, I can understand why things look this way, or in a positive and developmental way. So yeah.
So the reason we're talking about public and private data, this is a chart that Catalina made, and we'll show you another one that she made as well, about access. Shock of shocks, structural sexism, ruining the world, and men's leagues have much greater access in the public space to really high quality data than women's leagues do. And then if we see here, this is all precipitated by the fact that FBref's publishing of advanced data is no more for reasons that we can't really talk about on the record. And we're we're leaving a really big gap here now with where you can get high quality data in the public for women's leagues. I know you're writing about this for the 9, Catalina. What spurred you to do that, and what insights have you found in your research and reporting about this issue?
Yeah, so originally this was kind of a smaller survey that I posted on Blue Sky, and it really came out of me wondering what the best app was that could replace FBref in some way. I think everyone kind of has their own app. I would say that probably most of us in this room use FootMob or one of these other apps. Some people like SofaScore more, some people like them for different reasons, and I was really curious how that related to women's data. And so I did this survey, and then afterwards, Abigail Siegel at the 9 reached out to me and was like, would you want to do a more kind of advanced survey and do a write-up on this? And I said yes. And so I expanded the search. I considered a total of 13 competitions across men's and women's divisions. And I think the difference was really stark. FBref was really vital for providing a lot of these advanced stats. And I think when we think of advanced stats, it can be like, I think it can almost sound like a luxury in a sense, but it also for so many people is a necessity to actually analyze these games. Because if you go back to the last slide, not only is XG missing from many of these competitions, so are basic stats like how many shots did each team have? How much possession did each team have? What were the lineups? In 54%, which is a majority of women's competitions across these apps, those kinds of basic stats were missing. And that's really like, it makes analyzing or even understanding what happened in these games impossible. And not only that, but then you have difficulties like watching the games. And so it's just like, there's such a huge disparity. You see that 90% of these competitions on the men's side have that coverage. It's commonplace. In fact, in looking at kind of these competitions across these apps for the men's side, I was surprised when I came across one that didn't have basic stats. And when I came across one for the women's side, it was commonplace. It was just kind of what happened. And so I was less surprised. And that's just really unfortunate that there is such this huge gap between the two genders.
Yeah, and FOTMob didn't add XG for the NWSL till midpoint last season. Like the idea that, I mean, the loss of FBref, which is not great for putting people back into sort of the darker ages of soccer understanding. I mean, one of the big reasons we started this podcast is we felt like informed fans make it easier for all people, for players, for front offices to sort of be subject to valid criticism. And the loss of these kind of data providers, particularly in the women's game, I think just it hurts all parties involved. How do you feel about sort of the future of the landscape in the post FBref world?
I think it's so difficult because I think not only does it impact the people who are already covering the sport, right? Like you guys, like writers, like analysts, like people that are posting their work on Blue Sky, like us at this conference, right? Like it impacts those people, but it also impacts the people who could be the future of analytics, who could work in clubs, who could get that experience by being able to see that data for the leagues that they're already watching, you know? I just think it's so important to be able to have that coverage, and the fact that we don't. I mean, FootMob, like you said, only just added NWSL data. It's one of 3 of the like big 5 competitions as measured by Opta's league power rankings. And SofaScore has more leagues, but it's like kind of random ones that you wouldn't necessarily expect that not as many people are watching. They don't even have NWSL XG. And I mean, this is just one stat, XG, but it really comes down to a lack of access, and the future of this industry is, it's only like, it should be getting better for women's soccer, but it's getting more bleak because of this.
Right. Well, we don't want to end on a down note, so we're going to play a little game. Anyone who is familiar either with Deadspin or Defectors, let's remember some guys. We've modified it to... Let's remember some WOSO players. We've picked players for everybody here. They don't know who they are, and we just want to have them riff and share some remembrances of what these kinds of players are like. So first up, this one's for Chloe. the 19-year-old, yet another youth, Michelle Adjumong of England, and her loan at Brighton just ended, right? Yeah. Why do you want to talk about Michelle Adjumong?
I'm going to back my home country here a little bit. Come on. Look, I think, again, I want to focus on players that I like wants to watch. And I think, obviously, I know she's obviously injured at the moment and stuff like that, but I think I look at the impact that she had in the Euros, and like she comes on, like gets the last minute winner, like semi-finals against Italy, and I don't know, I was just really impressed by her performance. And I think she came on and she didn't necessarily start like, you know, she's coming on as a sub, or as we call it, Houston will call them finishers. And I think that's a thing where it's a mindset thing of, you're not just coming on to, coming on as a sub, like you're coming on to like make an impact on the game. Like, so yeah, I just feel like she's my one to watch, and I'm really excited for when she comes back. And yeah, obviously World Cup's coming up, so yeah, bring it on. It's coming home.
Yeah, yeah, she's an utter nightmare if you've got 70 minutes of running already on your legs.
So Catalina, we have picked a player from your favorite club, Sam Meza.
Yeah, Sam Meza, a player at the Reign and a former USL Super League player. As we know, I'm a big USL Super League fan, and I'm a big proponent of signing players from the USL Super League because I think it's a really undervalued place to get talent. And I think if there's one player that shows like how this is a good avenue for getting these players, it's Sam Meza. She's just been exceptional, and she was really, really good this past season, and obviously now at the U.S. Women's National Team, just killing it. So
yeah, we wondered when the USL Super League started and the draft went away, like how young players who started their careers there would be able to perform and maybe get to the highest levels. She couldn't quite latch on with an NWSL club in that first year, had to go to a lower division, and now, as you say, is one of the, 4 or 5 best central mids under the age of 25 in the U.S. pool at the moment.
Yeah, she's quite a destroyer.
Yeah. She's an absolute beast. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this. I won't presume that you did. But just a couple before we do the applause, I just want to say I've already thanked Scott. Also want to thank Sarah Rudd for everything that she did in helping to organize this. And I also want to have everybody do a really massive round of applause for Stacy and Rose and Fred and Pedro and like all of the student organizers and volunteers who actually made this thing work. They were absolutely incredible all weekend. Yep. And then finally, the 2 most important things, be sure to listen to Expected Own Goals everywhere you get podcasts. Follow us on social media at XOwnGoals. That's the letter X Own Goals. Now that we have officially closed the 2nd annual American Soccer Insight Summit. So thank you all for being with us all weekend.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.